I kind of wanted to get into some more, I would say, recent events in your life, your private investigating company that you run, and you have the nonprofit. If you want to talk maybe a little bit about one or both or whatever you're comfortable with.
So yeah, I do sometimes work custody cases. It's pretty specific to, depends on what it is, you know. They're hard cases to prove and to work. My partner in the nonprofit, Kevin Wyatt, has his private investigative agency, Eyes on Private Investigations. And he does a lot of custody issues. He too is a retired law enforcement officer, and so he does a lot of good work. My agency is called Birch Brothers. My brother is a federal agent, or was, and now is a local down in Arizona, and so he's helping when he can, discussing some of these cases. So, but the nonprofit is Missing in America. It actually is, the actual nonprofit is justicefound.org, and Justice Found. So we work all kinds of different cases, but we help in missing children, we help in missing people cases as much as we can. One of the things that I have started doing is to try to help homeless people find their family. And so sometimes it turns out really good. Sometimes their family doesn't want anything to do with them, you know. But I think if anybody's going to help these homeless people out, it's going to be their loved ones, you know. So that's part of what I do, and I have to do it on their request. You know, I offer it, and if they request, then I'll help them find their family members. Most of them are from out of state. Some are here in Utah, but you know, that's a lot of what the nonprofit does. And we try to help out other investigators that have missing people. And so as we try and help, we do some backgrounds, we do some surveillance, we do some things that might find more information. If law enforcement allows us, we'll cooperate with them, but usually they run their own investigation. So it just seems like in today's environment, it seems like more and more people are suffering from mental illness, and then they go missing, and sometimes there's no leads, so we just keep on going.
It's scary because, you know, even when I was just doing a search on missing cases with the FBI in 2021 for children alone, it was over 300,000. This is in 2021, this is in 2022. And we're not talking about just a one-time number. This is every year.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is that there's probably double that in initial missing people cases or missing kid cases, and half of them, or a little over half, will come back or be discovered. It's those that never are that is amazing to me. And like I said, it's like the population of a county in our state, where 300,000 people gone missing as children is amazing to me. You know,
the ones that aren't found.
Yeah.
I mean, in your line of work, in your experience, where do you think they are? Do you think they're just hiding out somewhere? Do you think they're being trafficked? Do you think they've been taken out of the country? Where are these missing children going in your opinion, your experience?
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, when it's usually younger kids, it's a custodial issue, at least in my experience, where the mom or dad is out of the picture and doesn't have legal custody. I had one that kidnapped her daughter after losing custody to her mom and ended up in Hawaii. And years later, I was called because I had a warrant for her. And they called and she was getting services at the time, so we just dropped the warrant. So that could be what happens to a lot of these kids, young kids, as custodial interference. Now, the older they get, it could be runaways, and then who knows where they're at. I mean, for the most part, runaways are seen or found or discovered pretty soon, you know. Most times it's within a few days, maybe a week. But those that are missing for days and weeks and months and years, could be anybody's guess. You know, maybe they hitchhike to Vegas and then to LA and they're trying to make their life there. There are so many young people on the streets these days. It's just amazing to me, you know.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary. What other cases have you worked through your nonprofits? What other types?
So basically, just missing people, and so we're working a case out of Tooele we're just providing assistance to another investigator, and I can't remember his last name. Rick is his first name, and he's an adult and went missing one night and is gone a year ago. And I just don't understand where they go, you know. I've been looking for him here, where I do a lot of work up here and a lot of homeless, deal with a lot of homeless. Sometimes I'll show pictures and nobody knows who he is. So who knows? I'm at a loss. So, but hopefully the investigator, Michelle Palmer is who she is, and she has Corner Canyon Investigations, but she's doing this pro bono to try and help this kid, this family, and find this kid. He's in his late 20s, but anyway, it's hard on the families, you know, super hard on the families, and nobody wants to hurt their family, I don't think. So that's the thing, is who knows if there's some kind of foul play or something, you know. And there's so many of these teenagers too. I just I wish there was a better way to provide services for them, but I don't think there's an adequate amount of services for them. Just is what I'm saying. You know?
We definitely need a lot more in the play with our youth. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and I really feel like we need to figure out a way to come together more for these children. I mean, you have so many, you know, broken homes now, blended families, and this is hard for kids. This is tough, and they need resources. They need help. They don't, you know, oftentimes they're being neglected or emotionally abused or sexually abused. You know, a lot of things that you went into, and they don't have a safe place.
No.
And we need to create a safe place for them, allowing them to have a place so they're not running away. I wish, you know, maybe one day as a community we can get something in place to better help our youth, to better help our children in that regard. How long have you had your nonprofit? How long ago did you and Kevin Wyatt start it?
It's been 3 years now.
Okay.
So, and like I said, most of what I do now is trying to help homeless find their family. But we provide free assistance to other investigators that are helping other families. So that's good.
Do you have agencies that are involved with you, or that you've dealt with, that have been a part of the problem or helped with the problem in any way?
Well, it's interesting. Of course, law enforcement has the right to keep their information private and whatnot. But my experience being law enforcement is that you're so busy that you can't focus like somebody else can. So that's where we come in and help other private investigators as they offer free help to families of missing people. So
So
that's
go ahead.
So that's just a part of what we do. Is some of the PIs out there aren't trained like we are, but at the same time they're at least putting this effort towards finding their loved ones. So we try to help where we can and structuring and helping with what they do.
Awesome. Can you tell me more, I would say some of the cases, more cases that you've worked, as far as working with parents, working with whoever it may be? What else have you seen? What else have you worked with? What have you come up against? What's surprised you? What can we learn from you?
Yeah, so what's probably surprised me is when I find the families of these homeless people, how they've been hurt by them. They stole grandma's money to buy drugs, and so they don't want anything to do with their family member, kind of thing. And they are grateful to know that their family members are alive, but they don't care to help out very much, And so, I think our homeless issue is our drug issue. I think that heroin and fentanyl and methamphetamine is a huge issue, right? And these people don't want to follow the rules in order to get the help they need, because they want to be free to do what they want and use the drugs they want. And I'm friends with many of them. And I just think that there's a better way. I think we have to address the drug issue before the homeless issue goes away. Right here in the homeless shelter here on 4th West and 500 South in Salt Lake City. That's where my office is, and I deal a lot with the homeless there. And they provide meals, but you have to agree to their program if you're going to get a bed to sleep in at night. And most of them don't want to. They want the food, but they don't want to go to their program. So,
what type of programs are available in these homeless shelters for people? What are you aware of? Do you know?
So most of them are independent, religious-based shelters. The Catholics have a shelter that I think this one here is Baptist, maybe. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the LDS have for as far as the shelter goes, but so in order for them to get into the program, they have to come to a Bible study or whatever. I'm not sure what the Catholics do, but they'll feed whoever shows up. And then, but in order to come in, you have to be off your drugs and participate in their program.
Do they help them get clean?
They do, yeah.
So they'll offer assistance if they're not clean to help them get clean?
Yes.
Okay.
So
that's fascinating. I think maybe a lot of people may not even be aware of. So the homeless shelter has resources even available to people to help them get back on track if they're willing to comply.
Right. Yeah.
That's actually pretty incredible that we have that available in our community. What other cases have you worked?
So, like I said, I've done some child custody issues. Probably won't go into those, other than my advice to never use your kids as a pawn in whatever the relationship issues are. So, anyway.
Do you have any agencies that you're working with, or that law enforcement works with, or DCFS works with that are available as far as to the youth?
I mean, there's some programs out there. In fact, I've been approached about a program down in Utah County where a friend of mine is going to develop his parking lot into a youth center, and they can do classes. They can do. The whole idea is to have a safe place for kids to go, and so he's putting his board together now, and then they'll break ground and he'll develop that into a youth facility and just a safe place for kids. They can go and learn things and get education or play with remote cars or gaming or, stuff like that. So.
Is that open to the community as far as all children, or is there a select?
I think it's open to everybody, and I think he's done well in his life, and he just wants to provide something back to the community.
Is this a nonprofit that he's starting where people could contribute?
Yes.
To help blow this up into something?
Yeah. Years ago, it used to be the YMCA, and there's not really any of those things anymore. It's all privatized. This just makes it harder for kids to have a place to go.
Well,
even if they just want to go talk to somebody,
Yeah. We need to be able to do that. We need to be able to create a safe place for all kids to go. You deal with these, children from the time they're little, these different ones that have gone through abuse of some form. And I did a podcast series, my first series on trauma and the neuroscience of what happens to the brain. But when they go through this trauma, it actually rewires their brain, which is creating a lot of these personality disorders and pain disorders, because it just unplugs everything and plugs them back in the wrong spot. You basically have an egg that's healthy, and then you have it scrambled when the abuse happens in some form. And oftentimes, as time develops, you have these children as they grow up that develop these different disorders, where you're seeing oftentimes them getting involved into drugs or suicides, or with these, I would say with adolescents maybe that aren't the healthiest for them, and they're just forming these I would say unhealthy patterns, sad toxic patterns in their life. Very emotionally dysregulated. Obviously, brain gets developed by the age of 25. There's actually new research supporting that it's 26, both male and female, which is pretty fascinating. So you have a lot of these kids, and as time evolves and they're going through adolescence, and you're seeing different things. You have reports of kids making false reports of abuse.
Sure.
For whatever reason that it may be, but under the case of their brain being just a bit scrambled. So there's very dysregulated, whether it be somebody coaching them to do things, a perpetrator or a friend, or just on their own with what they've been just I would say with the abuse that they've endured and kind of what's transpiring after that. So talking with a mental health expert, and just it really comes down to a lot of the trauma that's happening to these children and early on in age. What have you seen in your line of work since you've been retired, or even during law enforcement, on some of these false allegations and working with families, working with children, working with these adolescents, and dealing with those types of cases? What have you run into? What have you seen?
So there's a few things, and I think it's changing. I think that there is a mental illness portion to this, but basically what I've seen in the past was, if there has been like some other trauma, some other family member that has trauma, sometimes these kids will make a false allegation in order to receive the same sort of attention that their other family members have done. But I see something kind of evolving where um, there are some pretty specific, like stories that people are making up. It's almost acceptable to lie about things, and it's almost like you say, a narcissistic approach to things where they're doing it for a specific reason to get something in return, if that's services or attention or whatever that is. And so I think it's changing from let me kind of jump on the bandwagon of I'm a victim too, to now there's an actual intent to be dishonest in order to get something out of it. So it's weird, and I hope it doesn't go that way, but I think it's happening.
Have you seen that on the rise more so recent?
Just in the people I've talked to recently, the cases I've worked recently with children, that sometimes can be the case, and that's where you have to be careful how you do your interviews.
Mm-hmm.
I do forensic interviewing, and that way you can kind of feather out some of the inconsistencies that come with a made up story or a story to include themselves in something. So
it's got to be tough as a detective or even as a private investigator using those same skills to really go in there and know what you're dealing with in these cases. Are you dealing with something real, or are you dealing with somebody who's got some form of a personality disorder, or somebody who's being coached to do things? It'd be really, really tough. I would imagine they have a lot of training and resources out there for law enforcement in that area to help really just decipher through, filter through.
Well, and that's the case, right? Is at least once a month in law enforcement, we would get together as forensic interviewers and then do a case review, just to point out some of the strange cases that we all had, And so the case review would be done by DCFS people or the head of the CJC. And then we would go over each other's cases and discuss the possibility of, coaching and those type of things. Coaching cases, in my experience, are so easy because kids have a hard time being intentionally dishonest. It's when they are really good at it that you have to be concerned. And so there you can kind of tell that too, because there's a way of questioning them about what they did that day and whatnot. So you can kind of gather that they are good at manipulation or making a story up. So
Right. Do you have anything else that you want to share, or any insight that you want to share with the community, or stories you want to go over?
Encourage all parents to just take the safety of your child seriously and be there for them.
Right.
And it's important that we're there for our children anyway.
What advice do you have for parents, caregivers, school personnel, in dealing with, a lot of these children that you have some of these older, I would say, older men involved and coming around? What should they be watching for that they may be oblivious to, or just you haven't had experience to? What should they be watching for in the kids? What can they be looking out for? What would be your advice to our community?
So, you're a parent, and so my advice would be pay attention, and don't let your children define the parameters of their life. You as a parent should define those parameters of their life until they're adults. And just as any parent, as long as you're paying attention to your kids, you're going to know something if something's off, or you're going to see something when something's wrong. So that's just the bottom line is nobody. If you're driving a car and you're not paying attention, you're a hazard. If you're doing your job and you're not paying attention, it could be bad. So anything that you do, you need to have specific intent, especially with your kids. The younger they are, you need to be super attentive. That's just the way it is. I know we like to not have them bothering us all the time, but at the same time, we need to be there for our kids.
Right. Absolutely. Be more present, pay attention to what's going on.
Yep.
Watch the way that they're acting, what they're wearing, their appearance, different things that are changing. It's definitely scary in today's world. I think as a parent, me as a parent, I thought I had it all together and I knew what I was doing. I've got two that are, maybe a grandma actually. So I've got a couple, kids that are grown adults, and then I've got my younger daughter. I think one of the things that I've learned as a parent is you think that you have it figured out. You think that, you can be the perfect parent and know what to do. But I mean, it really goes along with what you were saying about paying attention more, be more involved. If they're at an event, they're out of school or they're with their friend, get them on FaceTime, make sure that they are where they say they are, is what one of the mental health experts that I interviewed listened to. Just be present, like you said. And I think that, you've really shared some beautiful insight into preparing our community on what they can expect, what they should be looking out for, what could be the warning signs in different situations. I appreciate your time today. And I'm really excited to hear more about that book. So you'll have to let us know once that's been finished and developed, so our viewers can access that later. Sounds like a beautiful message that you're going to be sending for hope for those that are fallen victim to the suicide percentages. Mark, I really appreciate your time today, and I wish you all the best with your nonprofits and in your future ventures. Thank you.
Thank you.